So there's been a lot of disappointing gaming reveals and events lately. Google Stadia, the premiere of PlayStation State of Play, this just god-awful Gearbox presentation at PAX that had like a 30-minute magic trick right in the middle of it. Yeah, sorry Randy, watching you count from 1 to 47, just not very riveting for me. So I've been getting kind of used to just everything lately being a bust. And when I heard the recent news that Sega was going to be getting into the classic console game with a Genesis/Mega Drive Mini, I immediately started having flashbacks to the PlayStation Classic, the system that children around the world cursed Santa for leaving under their tree, the one that retailers now can't even give away. It's probably going to end up being like Fallout 76 at some point. They're just going to start duct taping them to other systems and appliances you buy. Figured we were probably in store for something like that again. But, no. To my pleasant surprise, actually, it seems like Sega might be going the Nintendo route and actually doing this right. Respecting the consumer. What a novel concept. So they've announced that these Genesis Minis will come loaded with 40 games, 40. Much bigger libraries than both the SNES and NES classics offered up by Nintendo. But quantity isn't everything, obviously. If it's 40 garbage games, then who cares? Well, Sega has given us a bit of a tease at what the lineup is going to be by revealing the first 10 of those 40 titles. The original Sonic the Hedgehog is there, good start. You may be saying, well, obviously Sonic is going to be there, he's the mascot. Yeah, that's what we figured was going to happen with Crash on the PlayStation Classic, and how'd that turn out? I know Sega does own Sonic, but yeah, it's just like you never know these days. But he is being flanked by Echo the Dolphin, Castlevania Bloodlines, Space Harrier 2, Shining Force, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Toe Jam and Earl, Comic Zone, Altered Beast, and Gunstar Heroes. And this is just the first 10 games. Sega, you guys, I'm going to tell you right now, you need to calm down. I can only get so excited. This is a fantastic starting lineup. Honestly, if the other games are just close to as good as this, hell, even if they are mediocre, I'd say this thing is looking solid. But if this is a sign of things to come, we're going to get 30 more games like this. This could match or even outshine Nintendo's classic systems. You know, even if this was going to be a smaller library like the ones Nintendo put out, say they were going to do like between 25 and 30 games, I would still feel that all of the 10 games that they announced already needed to be there. Castlevania should require no introduction. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is a Tetris-type game. Space Harrier 2 is a shoot-'em-up. Shining Force is an RPG. Toe Jam and Earl is an action-adventure game. Altered Beast is a beat-'em-up. Gunstar Heroes, a platformer shooter. Comic Zone is a beat-'em-up. And Echo the Dolphin is obviously a dolphin simulator. So right off the bat here, we've got a decent variety of games as well, and like I said, I do feel these are all necessary titles if you're going to have an ultimate collection of Sega Genesis games. Even Altered Beast, like, I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of that game. I don't think it's very good. But I couldn't imagine a Genesis collection being complete without it. Of the first 10, Comic Zone and Gunstar Heroes are the big entries for me, two of my absolute favorite Genesis games. Comic Zone, even today, I think still looks really impressive, and it feels so good just blowing shit up non-stop in Gunstar Heroes. So personally for me, those were the two big gets, besides Castlevania. Obviously, I've said a bunch of times I'm a huge fan of Castlevania, so love seeing Bloodlines in there as well. Yeah, there's nothing about this lineup I can hate on. So let's talk a bit about what we'd like to see beyond those first 10 games. I don't want to go through and list just like 30 more and just go on, but just a couple that I would consider. To start with 40 games, unlike some of these other classic mini consoles, I think there is room here to have multiple games from a single franchise, and I think they should totally do that with Sonic. Perhaps get another mainline Sonic game like Sonic and Knuckles, and also have something random like Sonic Spinball I think would be great to throw in there. In terms of other franchises, the most notable absence from this initial lineup for me has to be some Streets of Rage representation. Easily one of the greatest beat-em-up franchises of all time. get whichever one you can on there. Get all of them if you want. I'd welcome it. Even though I'm not the biggest racing or driving game fan, like I said, I do think it's important to have a wide swath or variety of games when you do these types of classic systems. So you gotta have some driving in there, and I think Outrun would be perfect to fill that slot. Even though, again, I'm not into the driving stuff, I can't dismiss that title's greatness. I'd play the hell out of it. Mortal Kombat I think should really be in there. So important to the video game industry at the time, both because of the whole violence thing, but also had a part to play in the console wars with the different versions. I probably wouldn't put MK1 on there. If I had to choose a single entry from that era, if it was up to me, I'd probably pick Mortal Kombat 2. Sticking with the things that were multi-platform, Earthworm Jim is another one of those games that I would think, even though it was multi-platform, it would feel right to me, having it be on the Sega Classic console. Obviously, also the Nintendo ones are done too, right? So it's like this will probably be our only chance to get these multi-platform games on one of these retro systems. But yeah, I don't want to just keep going on and on with games I'd like to see. I could go on all day. Rystar, Kid Chameleon, Sparkster. Sparkster would be great to have on this thing. Cool Spot would be funny just to see if they could get that. They definitely have a large pool of titles to choose from, that's for sure. For a start, though, this is really strong. Just this lineup alone, I think, totally blows the PlayStation Classic out of the water. Like, if they just said, this is it, we've got these 10 games and it's going to cost $100, yeah, that wouldn't be a great deal, but I do think it would be way better than what they gave you on the PlayStation Classics. And with 30 slots still to fill, if they keep up this level of quality, I really do believe this could surpass the Nintendo Classic systems simply by having more. Sure, quality, again, is better than quantity, but if both lineups are sick and Sega's is bigger, I'd have to give it to them. Price will also play a factor. I haven't seen any list price for these yet, but I'd assume it would be similar to the Super Nintendo Classic, maybe a bit more since they are giving you more games, and I think it'll also do great sales-wise. Still, we only have a few games to go off of for that, but yeah, if the rest of the lineup is of similar quality, I can't see these not selling extremely well. I definitely don't think we'll have a PlayStation Classic repeat, but I don't think it would be a Nintendo Classic situation either, though. Even if they do come out with the full roster and it does feel like a superior lot of games, Sega has the issue of being more retro. Yes, they still make games today, but they're not nearly as much of a force in the industry as they were back in the 90s. So I think due to current name value, there probably won't be as many people seeking these out, which will probably be great for the consumer. May mean you don't have as many problems with inventory shortages and predatory resellers on sites like eBay, but you never know, could happen. Again, it all depends, I think, on the rest of that lineup. But what they showed so far, yes, it is amazing. Right now I have tons of faith in this and hope the full product delivers the ultimate Sega Genesis experience. That's what I always say with these classic systems. The goal should be, if you have someone who wants to either revisit, they're an old person like me, they played these games back then, they want to get a little bit of that nostalgia, or you have somebody who's a new player and wants to experience what that era, what that system was like. Your goal should be you're looking at both those people and you have one product that you can give them and say, here, this is that ultimate experience. And going off these first 10, it seems like Sega is well on their way. Doesn't seem at all to me like this is going to be a PlayStation situation where it seemed to me even at the beginning like Sony was just trying to get a cheap cash in on all this, retro game console hype. Seems like their goal is really that ultimate experience, and they're well on their way to doing so. But with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the Sega Genesis Mini in the comments. What do you think of this initial lineup of games, and which titles would you like to see them add to it? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of the Sega Genesis Mini. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter, @JohnnyZakari, and join my Discord, Shy Guy and Friends. Link to both in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.